Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So thank you, everyone, for joining us and continuing the journey with us. It's all about the Journey Builder. So here we are in the deep dive series. So we have covered, I think, 8 sessions so far. And here in today's session, we have Hunter and Tim present on the AI-driven journeys in Marketing Cloud engagement. So we have 7 more sessions lined up in the deep dive series. So I believe you're also part of the hands-on sessions happening every Wednesday. Make sure that you're registered to all the sessions in the series. So with that, I will take this opportunity to thank you both, Hunter and Tim, for presenting this session. I will now turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. So Tim and I are going to give a presentation today that's going to be a modified version of a talk that we gave at Trailhead DX in the spring, and we're giving it a few different user conferences over the course of this year. We're going to talk about journeys in Marketing Cloud and some of the ways that you can incorporate AI into those journeys. And so I think many people on the call are familiar with Tim Zeider from Cervelo. But my name is Hunter Dunbar, and I'm an architect in our team at Cervelo. And I am based in a little town about an hour south of Boston, Massachusetts. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the new sources of data that can be unlocked today through use of generative AI. And then we're going to talk about some of the ways that those can be integrated into a Marketing Cloud workflow. So here's a traditional kind of Marketing Cloud journey flow. We have data sources on the left, which can be your classic Salesforce objects, contacts, campaigns, cases, accounts, opportunities. You can also bring in external data from sources outside of Salesforce, model that all into Marketing Cloud through data extensions. We join and create data sets for who we're going to send to. And then we use the attributes in those data extensions to take people down different journey paths, and based on actions and things that occur during that journey, we'll take them down different trees. And so there's a couple different ways that we can integrate AI into this workflow. There are a bunch of different things that we can do on the right here within the Marketing Cloud stack. So come up with custom email or hyper-personalized emails using generative AI, come up with different kind of stock images that get embedded into an email template. But one of the things that we can also do is we can use AI to drive additional data about our customers to give us more data points to take them down more targeted journey paths. And so what I'll be presenting on, Tim's going to talk about some of the features and capabilities on the Marketing Cloud side, but what I'll be talking about is introducing more personalized data to this process through interaction intelligence. And so you can see we'll add more sources on the left, we'll have more detailed journeys on the right. So with your traditional journey, you've got basic demographic contact account detail from Salesforce. And we're going to be manually creating our journeys, pointing and clicking in the application, manually creating and managing content. With AI powered journeys, same thing. We've got that demographic account data. But we're going to introduce additional data to our workflow, and that's this interaction intelligence. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this, so it'll become clear in a minute, but we're going to be able to use AI to extract topics and insights from unstructured data. And then we've also got all new set of tooling on the Marketing Cloud journey building side. So you can do some advanced segmentation and journey paths. That's what interaction intelligence is going to enable. But we can do a little bit more hyper personalization of content, and some more dynamic follow-up action creation. Okay, so for as long as humans have been alive, they have been writing down stories. And so we've been writing things down in caves. And the printing press was obviously a big deal in the history of mankind. And in the past 100 years, our ability to transcribe has gotten much, much better. So we go from just writing down stories to coming up with more advanced ways of automatically writing down stories. And in the past, 10, 15 years, we've gotten to the point where, and we're doing it on this call right now. I think I saw, JB, that you had some AI Insight add-on configured for the Zoom meeting. We can do a really good job of capturing what people say on calls. And so what you used to have with transcription is you used to have, I don't know if folks remember talk to text on their phone, but it was really bad. You'd speak into your phone trying to type a text message and it would have a million errors, and it would just, your text would be butchered. We're getting better and better at transcribing what people say audibly into really detailed sentence structure. And okay, what does this do for us though? Just highlight, I'll just reaffirm what I just said. Very low error rates on transcription right now. Well, we need a way to analyze that unstructured transcription text. The transcription text is very accurate now. Well, how do we extract insights out of it? Because the only way that I know how to extract insights out of it is I, read through the transcription and I take notes and I log those in a system. Well, Salesforce has traditionally given us a couple tools for analyzing unstructured text. The first being named entity recognition. This was part of the Einstein language, I think was what it was called, suite of tools. I believe it's been, they're starting to sunset it because they've got better tooling now. But what you could do is say, Marc Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, gave the keynote speech at the conference in Paris last week. And what named entity recognition would do is it would pull all of the attributes of that sentence, and it would give them back to you in kind of a structured JSON object. So it'd say, hey, in this block of text, you had Marc Benioff, he's a person. You had CEO, that's a title. You had Salesforce, that's an organization. And Paris, that's a location. Works good. What about a more kind of conversational text, though? Like I'm having a transcription of a conversation between me and JB, or in this case, somebody named Alex. Good to see you again, Alex. It's been a few years, so I'm pleased we can get caught up on where things stand today across your financial picture. The example we're going to be giving today, by the way, is in the space of wealth advising. Well, what named entity recognition is going to do is it's going to look at that block of text and it's going to say, good to see you again, Alex. And what it sees is good to see you again is the name of an album by a band named Whitesnake. And that's obviously not one of the entities that we're interested in extracting from this block of text. So named entity recognition works really well, but it does fall down in a couple of ways. It's not quite as intelligent as something like Gen AI, which we'll talk about in a second. With sentiment analysis, I think most folks are probably familiar with this. Another tool that Salesforce offered for kind of text analysis. It's interesting. I gave a presentation in 2017 at Dreamforce on sentiment analysis, and at the time, it felt like magic. It felt really amazing that we were able to do that. And, here we are 7 years later, and this seems really remedial. But sentiment analysis will take a block of text and just say, is it positive or negative? Generative AI, we can take unstructured text and we can get entities out of that text. So with generative AI, we'll do something similar to what we did with named entity recognition. We'll say, take the following text and tell me what entities are mentioned in the sentence. Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, gave the presentation, blah, blah, blah. It's going to say, hey, the following entities are mentioned. Give us all those. Okay. So named entity recognition and sentiment analysis are APIs that provide a structured response every time, but they obviously have some limitations. Generative AI is going to give us a very accurate response, but we don't have complete control of the structure of the response that we're going to get back. Everybody has heard about large language models hallucinating, or sometimes you can ask it the same question twice and it'll give you 2 slightly different responses. And slightly different responses are okay for human to computer interaction, but they're not great when we're trying to extract structured insights out of a block of unstructured data. So let me talk really quick about the use case that let me dive a little bit deeper on our use case today. So we've got call transcripts. We know that we can very accurately transcribe the content of a phone call. But how do we get insights from that transcript? How do we learn things about call transcripts kind of at scale? Well, the idea that we've kind of built out is this concept of taking unstructured data and creating structured data from it. So I'm going to focus on a specific set of attributes in a conversation between a financial services wealth advisor and a potential client. So, let's say that I'm interested in getting some guidance on my financial picture. I want to go to a wealth advisor at, I'm blanking on the name of a company right now, but Charles Schwab or Fidelity or Morgan Stanley. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, hey, I want to talk about my finances and I want to put together a plan and I want to work with you. And the wealth advisor will go, they generally follow a fairly kind of structured path when they're working with a client. And we know that a couple of things that they're going to talk about are financial goals, products, objections, and follow-up actions from the conversation. So we can use generative AI to take an unstructured call transcript and get a structured set of products that were discussed, financial goals that were discussed, objections that the customer might have raised about investing in those products, and then follow-up actions. So we've done this a couple different ways. And again, I want to bring us back to, sorry, there was one last piece of this story that I didn't describe. Once I have these structured insights about my call transcripts, I can pull them into Marketing Cloud and a data extension and use them in my journeys. Just to kind of bring us back to the overall topic today, which is AI-driven Marketing Cloud journeys. Once I've got structured data, it makes it much easier to use in Marketing Cloud. Okay, so what's an example of how we could architect this application? We've done it 2 different ways. When Tim and I originally built this out, we used all custom integration with OpenAI. So you've got an architecture on the left, kind of Salesforce data flow that I won't go into too many details, but essentially we're saving the transcript to an object, and then we're passing that transcript to an API. The API is going to take the transcript. It's going to inject system context into a prompt saying, hey, I want you to do this with my transcript. And then OpenAI is going to return a response. I'll show the prompt in a little bit, but we're going to tell OpenAI that we want that prompt back in JSON format. Once we get the JSON back in Salesforce, we're going to have to parse that JSON into objects, which will, then we'll have that structured insights as to what was discussed in the call transcript. So one of the things that I'm going to talk a little bit about today is Prompt Builder. I don't know how many folks on the call have heard or worked with Prompt Builder, but this is a relatively new product from Salesforce. And what we ended up doing is we got access to a developer org that had Prompt Builder installed. And essentially what we did is we took, this is our old kind of architecture. So you have transcripts, you have an Apex trigger, we have an Apex call out to a Python API, which calls OpenAI, which returns a JSON object, which gets parsed into structured data in Salesforce. We were able to cut out this middle portion using Prompt Builder. And so what Prompt Builder allows you to do is create prompts, inject Salesforce data into your prompts kind of dynamically and automatically. Salesforce then passes that prompt through a handful of security measures. So data masking, prompt defense. They then pass it to an LLM, which is hosted within Salesforce's trust boundary. They get a prompt back. They demask the data, run it through some toxicity detection, and then they pass it back to the user. And so when we compare that to what we had, we were just taking our customer data, and we would never do this in an actual production customer scenario, but just taking that and passing it to OpenAI, getting a response, and relying on Azure infrastructure and OpenAI infrastructure to not have any type of data leaks. And we're hoping that OpenAI is going to abide by our partnership agreement with them to not retain any of the data that we're sending them, et cetera, et cetera. Far less secure than this solution where Salesforce is going to take care of everything for you. Okay, so let's get into the demo real quick. Okay, so I've got JB, while I'm logging in, are there any questions or anything I need to address?
I don't see any questions as of now, Hunter, but I would like to share my thoughts. This is the content that you're sharing today is something which we haven't covered, and not many of us know how to use Prompt Builder yet. So thank you for adding this topic. So looking in the chat, I don't see any questions. I think we can go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just give an overall demo of this happening in, I'll show how the application works, and then I will give a quick demo of Prompt Builder just so that folks can get their hands a little dirty with that. All right, so I've got a lead in Salesforce. And for the purposes of our demo today, we're going to assume that I have a transcription solution automatically logging phone conversations to tasks in Salesforce. So I'm going to log a call And we're going to skip the part where, there's a transcription solution that would log the transcript of the call to an object in Salesforce. Let's assume we've got our transcript. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to update a Boolean that says extract transcript insights. And when I do this, there are Apex triggers, or it might be a triggered flow. I can't remember exactly what the automation is, which is going to copy this whole call transcript over to an object called an interaction summary. When I open that interaction summary, I get a nice transcript. And so I'll go through this quickly. This is a conversation between someone named Lily Rodriguez and a wealth advisor named Walter from a firm called Apex Investments. This is a fictional firm. Obviously don't want to do this with live, real data on a call like this, but we've got, some basic kind of introductory conversation. And then Lily starts describing her finances. And she says, well, I've got some savings tucked away in an IRA and a 401k through my job as a geophysicist. Whoops, sorry. And I'm not sure if it's the best way to do it. How much does she have in savings? How much does she still owe on her mortgage? Where does she live? Oh, she lives in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Lots of really interesting data points about our customer, Lily, in here, but it's completely hidden away in unstructured text. So how do we get that structured? How do we get structured insights out of this, really long block of text, short of having somebody go through this and write down everything and then save it to a record in Salesforce? Well, what we're doing is we are taking this transcript, we're passing it to an LLM, and we're saying, give me the products and the categories of those products that were discussed. So we had them discussing IRA, which is a retirement product, 401k, which is a retirement product, mutual funds, which is a type of asset, ETFs, which is a type of asset, et cetera. Later in the call, Lily raises some objections around concerns about mutual funds, a little bit of concern about risk, cost objections related to annuities and life insurance. That all gets extracted out into this JSON object. Once we've got the JSON object, we can use Apex to parse this into entities. And so what we end up with is a table that looks like this. I've got all the goals, objections, products, and follow-up actions that were discussed during the call. And you can see I've got it all listed out here. So how do we do that? I mean, you can imagine, this is just one kind of simple example is wealth advising, but you could imagine all the different types of scenarios that a customer might, or that a Salesforce organization might be able to leverage this type of data. So how do we do it? I showed that architecture diagram at the beginning. I'm going to show how this happens with Prompt Builder, because right now this is using Prompt Builder. Can I move this? I can just say, okay. Yeah, there we go. All right. So in this org, I am going to open up our prompt. And so one of the key kind of ways that we've unlocked these insights is through building a really kind of long and robust prompt. The more time that you invest into building your prompt, the better the insights you're going to get. And so in our scenario, you can see this long prompt that we've pasted into Prompt Builder. And I think before I go down this road, what I should do is maybe take folks through creating a prompt from scratch. So I'm going to say create a new prompt template. We've got a couple different types of prompts that we can create. So you can do field generation. And what field generation is going to do is it's going to populate a field that you determine in Salesforce. So I select the object, I select the field, and it's going to, like create, this is for the type of scenario, like write me an email template. Record summary is going to allow you to take a bunch of child records, and the prompt will summarize insights about all of those child records onto a parent record. And then finally, Flex, which is what we're going to use today, can kind of do anything. So I'm going to create something called transcript summarizer. And we can define inputs for our prompt. So I'm going to define an input called transcript. This is going to be that long block of text. I'm just going to say it's free text. It's not coming from any object. And then I'll click next. A couple things to show within Prompt Builder here. We can inject grounded resources into our prompt. So these could come from the current user. So if I wanted to use my name, Hunter, in the prompt, I could do that. By putting in my full name or first name or whatever. I can include resources that come from a Flow or Apex. This is called from one of those, our current organization, or free text. If this was a record summary or a field generation flow, I think we would have additional resources related to the S object that it was associated to, but we don't have that now. So I can inject free text, or I can inject that transcript attribute that I defined in the flow setup here into my prompt template. I'm not going to do that because I copied the whole prompt that we're going to use. But you can see a little bit about how we've engineered this prompt. You will receive a transcript between a customer and an agent who works in the wealth management industry. The call transcript will be delimited by triple backticks. So like we need to provide the LLM a lot of detail. So like in our transcript, you can see it's delimited by these triple backticks. Like that's the level of detail that we need to provide to the LLM in order to get a good response. Your task is to parse the transcript using the schema below and provide a JSON response. The schema contains expected keys for the JSON, followed by a sample response. The output should return only JSON. And then we're giving it an example of what a response would look like. So this is the sample JSON response. And this helps it to understand like exactly how it needs to structure the response. There's new tooling from most of the big LLM providers that enables you to create more structured, defined responses from the LLM. But at, up to like, I don't know, 9 months ago, that wasn't the case. You had to do it like this. You had to give it like a very kind of prescriptive version of what it should return. Then we've got just a ton of different products and categories, a ton of different follow-up actions and categories, just examples to kind of help the LLM understand what it's doing. And then finally, at the very, 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 very bottom, we input this transcript. So with Prompt Builder, it does a couple really cool things. We can use our own model, or we can use one of the standard models, and look at all these different options that are available. We've got all these ChatGPT models. We've got Anthropic Claude. We've got Azure, tons of stuff here. I can test this, and I'm going to do that. So first off, let me save this. And then let's test it. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did over here. I paste in the transcript, and I guess I do save and preview. And this is going to resolve the whole, this is going to, first off, show me what the finalized prompt looks like. So it's got all the information that was above, but when I scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see my transcript got pasted in there. And then on the right, this is what I got back from the LLM. You can see I got all my products, I got all my goals, I got my objections and follow-up actions. Okay, so that's Prompt Builder. I think for the purposes of the demo today, that's as far as we need to go for my demo portion. I'm going to hand it over to Tim now to talk about how we take all that information and pull it into a Marketing Cloud journey, and then all the other tooling that we can use to enable the overall marketing, the experience of the Marketing Cloud consultant. So. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, Tim, and you can take it over.
You got it.
I guess, JB, any questions before I kind of stop talking here?
Not at this time, Hunter. Please go ahead.
Great. Well, my contact information is available for anybody who wants to follow up with questions, and happy to help out.
Amazing, Hunter. Thank you. And yeah, so like Hunter said, how can we take this amazing unstructured data that he is transforming into these objects and make them actionable in Marketing Cloud? So we're going to talk about briefly 3 different ways to do that today. One, creating advanced segmentation and different journey paths. So we've got those different entities and interaction summaries in the Salesforce CRM environment. We're going to bring those down into Marketing Cloud using Contact Builder and those synchronized data extensions. And then we're going to use queries in Automation Studio to create those different segments, to have it influence how we're going to be driving our marketing. And then also use those data points with something like a decision split, to create different journey paths in journeys themselves. So we've got an example of SQL. We'll just sort of bring those to life in the Marketing Cloud environment today. Second, one-to-one content at scale, like Hunter had mentioned. So Marketing Cloud's got some cool new features. Some of you might have explored the Einstein Insights. We've also been able to integrate with the typeface content block. It allows for creation of one-to-one images. Pulling that all together in a data extension content management system will sort of bring that to life. Got some examples of using AMP script and SQL to sort of give you some use cases today on that. And then last but not least is how can we use this AI data to provide the next best follow-up action for those sales teams. So as we are creating those different sales follow-up steps, dynamically using that AI data to create the perfect follow-up step and personalizing it even to maximize conversion in the sales process. So before we dive into those 3 scenarios, I just wanted to walk through the schema, a lot of what Hunter took you through in the demo, and how these different data points are going to be brought into Marketing Cloud and then fed back into Salesforce CRM. So over here on the left, we've got those Salesforce objects like Hunter took you through. We've got our standard objects. If you might be using campaign, you might be using campaign members. And then the connectivity between the AI data that Hunter showed was, as he showed in that lead, it's that lead ID that might be in that campaign member that's connecting to that interaction summary. With that lead ID in that interaction summary ID, that opens up all those entity records that he shared that's going to provide that, those data points from that unstructured data. Then that's going to be fed into the center area for Marketing Cloud to cover a couple of different areas. Number one, determine that basic data that we need to send our communication. So something like a subscriber key or an email address, it's pretty straightforward. And then we're going to be pulling in that AI data to influence Marketing Cloud. So we might use those data points to influence the Einstein Insights to create a different type of personality that might drive the content dynamically. We might be pulling in those data points, like Hunter shared, the product they might be interested in, to determine that next best product for that lead. And then even customizing call to action and the sales owner that might be the best person to follow up with. And then when that data gets moved over into the Salesforce CRM environment, we're going to be updating those appropriate objects for that next best sales opportunity, pulling in that data to personalize whether we're creating a task, whether we're creating a case for service to follow up, or those opportunities. So let's take a look at this data. I know Hunter just showed some of the actual data that's coming in and how this data might influence those three different areas that we talked about. So here's a first example of a category time frame where we're going to be listening for those entity details to understand the intent of this lead. So if we're hearing something like they're interested in 0 to 30 days, or there might be a time frame of 6+ months, that's going to give us an idea of how ready this lead is ready to talk or to convert. That could influence the segmentation. It could also influence the content itself. Another example, like Hunter shared, was products. Like, how can we use the AI tool and the data that's coming through to determine what's going to be the best product to feature for this lead? So we can use the AI to determine what's going to be the most popular category that they're going to be interested in. Once we determine what that category is, what's going to be that product that they might have a positive sentiment that's going to say that's going to be the top product that we're going to want to recommend for this lead. Now that's going to influence the content itself. We might tailor the emails depending on that product, and that might also impact how that salesperson is going to follow up. Maybe it's going to be routed to the appropriate product team in the sales organization. A third example is how we're going to be using the personality, like those different characteristics that we're hearing that might drive, the concerns, the risk, the different points that might determine that personality. That's going to drive the look and feel of the email content, and then also might add some personalization to those next best follow-up actions with sales, so they'll be sensitive to know the needs, the risks, the watch outs for those leads. And then last but not least, listening for different objects that we're going to know what's the best way to follow up. Is this going to be following up right away? Is it going to be a phone call, email? Should the service team reach out? What's going to be the best way to do that? So let's give an example of how you can take this unstructured data, these entities that are now being synced into Marketing Cloud, and how we can enhance segmentation to do this. So let's say this is an example of a client who's using a lead ranking tool, something like a SalesWings, where they've got a ranking of hot, warm, and cold based on some more traditional lead ranking. So in the center of this query, you can see we're pulling in these entity details, objects. And so if we're seeing from these entity detail records something like 0 to 30 days, they're showing intent. We might say, okay, that ranking should be elevated to a hot ranking. If we're seeing something like 6+ months, then we might elevate that or reduce that ranking down to a cold ranking. And you can see in the upper part of this query, we're using a case statement to combine that predictive score from SalesWings with those LLM rank based on that unstructured data to create like an Uber ranking to either elevate that lead from maybe it was a warm or a cold lead, but if we're hearing from that entity details that they're showing intent, let's elevate them to a hot ranking. And same thing, if they're showing that they're not ready to take that next step, we might move that lead from a hot lead down to like a warm or a cold lead. So here's an example of how you can leverage that data in Marketing Cloud using SQL. And how this would manifest itself in a journey, you could take those different segments based on those lead rankings. And like we've demoed in this Journey Builder Bootcamp, you could have a journey that is creating those different paths. Like a hot path might be, we're going to send this lead directly to sales. We're going to create a custom task for that salesperson, even send them a hot lead notification to let them know this lead is ready to talk. If they're showing more of a warm rank, we might reach out to that lead via email. If they engage with that email, they get moved up to that hot path. If they don't engage, then they go into the cold path, the traditional path, where we're just going to nurture them over time. Okay, let's talk about one-to-one content at scale. Take a look, if you have an environment, the Einstein Copy Insights, they're available in most standard editions. With the Copy Insights, you can create personalities based on your persona. So this could be based on the personas that your brand team has determined. These personas could also be influenced just in time with those AI entities that are coming into Marketing Cloud. Once you set those personas, Einstein Copy Insights will create dynamic subject lines and body copy for each of those personas. And they won't just create just one, they'll give you 5 different options. And it's not only just those 5 different options, those options are going to be monitored over in time and improved. That combined with the Typeface content block, it's a very cool tool that Typeface has integrated with Marketing Cloud. It allows you to create one-to-one custom images right in Marketing Cloud. It isn't something where you're going to be loading in images anymore. It's going to create these on a one-to-one basis, what's going to resonate with that persona and that personality. So let's talk about how we can use AmpScript and even SQL to take this data to influence the content. So in this example, we want to use all of this data to recommend what's going to be the best product to feature in this email. So you can see in this AmpScript section up above, this AmpScript code, we're pulling in that subscriber key for that email send. And with something as simple as a subscriber key or a lead ID, we can look into that interaction summary synchronized data extension that Hunter had shared with us. Once we have that interaction summary ID, we can unlock all of those entities. So we're going to pause it there for a second. We'll go down below into SQL. What we'll kind of want to do, before we do this AmpScript is use SQL to rifle through all of those entities and determine, using like a group by function, to determine the top product category and populate that into a data extension. Going back into the AmpScript, we can use something like a lookup ordered rows, where we're going into that entity count for that product, find the top product category, and then use AmpScript to use a lookup function to find within that entity, within that specific product category, the that one product where that entity sentiment is positive. And there you go. That's how you can go from all these different product categories to find that top product category, and then find that one product that's going to be the best recommended product on a one-to-one basis for every single lead. Now let's talk about how you can use this content management system in Marketing Cloud, how you can combine the dynamic content that's being generated on those Einstein Copy Insights based on that AI data, based on those personas that you're creating, and the images from the typeface content block. So one thing that you'll want to do, similar to the example we had in SQL, you're going to want to do a query that's going to determine on a person-by-person basis which persona that's going to resonate most with that lead. Once you've determined that persona, you can set up a data extension based on all of your personas and put into that data extension the subject line, the content, the images that you're getting from the typeface content block. So using AmpScript, again, you're going to pull in that subscriber key. You're going to find the appropriate persona using that SQL data extension that you've created. Once you've got that persona, you can use something like a random function in AmpScript to look up this content management system, find the appropriate persona, and then pick the subject line, the pre-header, the body content, the imagery, and that's how you can create that image, all of that content on a one-to-one basis using a data extension content management system. So let's take a look at how this could come together in an email itself. So we've got over here on the left, we've got Abigail. She's interaction summary 0026. She's at retirement age. She's showing intent. And then we've got Victoria here, 0027. She's more of a younger professional. She's just starting out her career. She's still interested in, wealth management, but probably a little bit lower intent, different type of products that she's interested in. This is the same email, but you can see from top to bottom, they're dramatically different. So you start at the top, that typeface image, it's tailored to the audience based on that persona. Number two, it's that dynamic content that's coming from that content management system from the Einstein Copy Insights. Number three, that's that next best product that we used, that AmpScript use case to pull in that recommended product from filtering through those product categories and the right product. You could even do a custom call to action here at number 4, depending on that intent that we're seeing, and even link to those next best sales follow-up steps in number 5. Maybe Abigail is ready to talk with sales, whereas Victoria might just be gathering information at this point. All right, let's talk about our last section, which are those next best follow-up actions. So to use this data, pull it into Marketing Cloud using a query to populate using a custom attribute in Contact Builder, you can feed that into a decision split in your journey. And on a case-by-case basis, you could say, okay, for this lead, we're going to want to follow up and create a task and assign that to a particular person in a particular product area within the organization. This other lead, you might want to create an opportunity, depending on that sales activity. Or even you might want to create a case for service. Maybe this is more of a service issue to be handled. So using that AI-driven data to determine what's going to be the best object to be created in the Salesforce CRM environment. And not just that, but in those objects that you're creating, personalizing it, using that data to customize the subject for the task. That's going to include some of those pain points, some of those risks, some of that data. So when that salesperson gets that task, or when service gets that task, they're pulling in that personalized data that's coming in from that unstructured data into Marketing Cloud. So hopefully that gave you a good overview. Just so excited to have Hunter be on the call to show you the art of possible from an AI standpoint in the Salesforce CRM environment. And then just give you an idea, some areas to think about how you can make this actionable and how you can influence journeys in Marketing Cloud. So open it up for questions. Any questions on, okay, let's see, I've got a question here. Can that image generating tool generate GIF or GIF images? I believe so, yes. Or Einstein, just always dynamic and not editable. It is the personas, the personalities that you set up in the Einstein Copy Insights, those are editable. And then when it's spitting out those subject lines and those body copy, you can, there is no way to sort of take that that content and directly bring it over into like a content management system. So you're going to have to sort of manually move that over, and you have the full ability to edit that as you see fit as well. Let me see if we have any other questions. Can we use Einstein copy, get the copy approved with legal, and add that back? Yes, obviously, yes, you can. That copy is going to be available for you to run that through legal and get that approved. So definitely explore that tool and see the content that's being generated and see what works best for your use case. Yeah, there's definitely a component that especially in a financial services firm, you're going to want to be very close to that content, make sure it's approved before you put it out there. It's a great call. How is AI creating an object in the journey? I don't get. That's a great point. So it's influencing how you're going to create those objects. So we go back into this example. If you're pulling in this data that is saying this, this person might be interested in following up, via email in your unstructured data, there might be an entity that talks about, the best follow-up action. You're going to take that entity data, you're going to create a query to pull in those data points to influence in a data extension based on that subscriber, what's going to be the next best follow-up action. So you're going to be using that to influence which path they should go down the journey to create those objects using the object activity or any of those Salesforce activities for creating those objects. So it's influencing it, it's not creating it. We're working on different use cases to have those journey pieces and parts and functionality directly be created from the Salesforce CRM environment using API calls to create them in Journey Builder. But at this point, I think there still needs to be some manual intervention to take this data into Marketing Cloud, really understand what you're seeing, and help the marketer, the marketing operation persons, help direct the best way to use that AI data to influence your journey architecture and your marketing. Any other questions? Okay, I will pass it back to you, JB.
Thanks, Tim. So I see another question. Do we have any free image generating tool? I think Typeface is one. I don't know. I don't think it's free.
Unfortunately, no, it's not. But take a look at it and consider it as it's a tool that's not only embedded in Marketing Cloud and Content Builder, but you can use it as a standalone as well. And there's other options there as well.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions, Tim. Thank you for answering all the questions. I think we can call it a wrap. Thanks, everyone. And I will be uploading the recording soon. And we hope to see you again in the next session or next Tuesday, 8 a.m. Thank you, everyone. When Salesforce is going to provide its own image generating tool, we don't know. I have to check if it is on the roadmap, but we'll keep you posted. Thank you, everyone. Bye.